Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. It is Shane Simmons from Real Appalachia with Shane Simmons, and this is This Week in Appalachian History, covering the week of May 31st through June 6th, if my math is correct, yes. Oh, sorry, I apologize. It's Memorial Day weekend. I know this is getting out late, and I've got a lot of excuses I could make. I drove to Atlanta on Saturday and drove back on Sunday, so I was about... Oh, wait. Before that, I got up with the chickens, drove to Bluefield to see my nephew graduate from Graham High School. So I get up there, then leave from there to go to Atlanta, take my son, we go watch an NBA game, the Hawks-Knicks game. So then we drive back the next day. So I spent about a little bit over 15 hours on the road in 2 days. So that could be an excuse. I haven't slept any, that could be an excuse. But I'm going to tell you the real excuse. The real excuse is I'm a little drunk on peach cobbler. It is I had some wonderful stuff this very day, and I'm still floating from it and a little bit off kilter. So amazing stuff. If you haven't had peach cobbler in a while, I highly endorse it, but get some homemade kind. Nothing else will touch it. So I got lucky. I got some good stuff. But we'll jump into this week, and I would be completely remiss to not mention that today's Memorial Day, and again, I want to give a major appreciation for the folks, the veterans who died in battle trying to protect this country and give us our freedoms. And just amazing to me that people will do that, will give up trade their lives for people they don't even know. It just boggles your mind to think the sacrifice that these men and women have done for this country. And it seems like these days, maybe I'm crazy, but I don't feel like patriotism is as in vogue as it should be, but it always will be with me. I love all our veterans, but those who laid their lives down, it's such a humbling thing, and I always try to make it a point to just want to thank them and their families. It's not just the person who gave their life, which is as bad as it gets, but really impacted parents, husbands, wives, children, cousins, all these people. When someone passes away, it touches a lot of lives, and to think that anyone doesn't appreciate that is mind-boggling to me. But I want to make sure that I sit and think about that at least, to give some sort of thanks for. And there's no way you could ever repay them. There is absolutely no way to repay someone who would do that. But we'll get it kicked off with May 31st, and in 1942, in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, a man was born by the name of Harold Happy Hairston, and he was an NBA player. He's played for the Cincinnati Royals back when they actually had a team, the Detroit Pistons, and most notably for the Los Angeles Lakers, where he won an NBA championship in 1972 on a team that also was stacked. It had Wilt Chamberlain, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor. Pat Riley was on that team, who would go on to be a great coach and front office man, who I think he still serves in that capacity for the Miami Heat, if I'm not mistaken. And so Happy Hairston played for them. And he actually appeared on the television series Happy Days in an episode. Happy was on Happy Days, so which is kind of interesting little footnote. He passed away sadly in 2001 at the age of 58, but he left his mark on the hard court. Moving on to June 1st, 1926, in Mount Airy, North Carolina, a man who really needs no introduction. Andy Griffith was born, who was, of course, an actor, comedian, and singer. He was known for a couple of movies to begin with, The Face in the Crowd, No Time for Sergeants. He really became famous for those, but obviously he went to a different stratosphere when he started The Andy Griffith Show, where he portrayed Sheriff Andy Taylor from 1960 to 1968. The show ran, and just iconic TV show. I still watch it. Hardly a week goes by that I don't at least watch an episode, and it's just as good the 1,000,000th time as it was the first. And there's a lot of good shows in my life. I love The Office. I love Seinfeld. But if I had to just choose one that I could only watch again, I do believe it'd be The Andy Griffith Show. There's so many good memories tied to that from my family, and it's just funny. It's good, clean humor. You just don't see that kind of stuff anymore. Plus, they had a little bit more art to it. They had to put a little music, and they had to do things that a little different to get grab your attention. So I like that kind of subtle humor type stuff. But he also went on to play Ben Matlock in the TV show Matlock from 1986 to 1995. I found a couple interesting stories of him from his youth. He was when he was born into a really poor family, which is, being from Appalachia, that's not too overwhelmingly surprising, but he had to live with some relatives until his family could afford a house, and he actually slept in a dresser drawer for the first few months of his life. So that's about as poor as it gets, I do believe. But he went on to get, obviously to get way past those days. He was a shy child, and he actually found that his way to overcome that was to make people laugh, his classmates, and that was really what led him to his career in stand-up comedy. He really got known for, had a comedy routine called What It Was Football, and still holds up pretty well these days. I'm sure there's a clip here on YouTube if you want to look it up, but the old Andy Griffith show routine Andy Griffith routine of What It Was Football. He describes all this stuff that, he describes the game of football in the funniest way possible. But he also, and this was another funny thing I found, and a man in Wisconsin changed his name to Andrew Jackson Griffith. He was going to run for sheriff in a small town in, I think it was Grant County, Wisconsin. And Andy Griffith sued him for using his name and trying to use it to gain an advantage in the election, which he lost the election. But Andy Griffith was unsuccessful in blocking him from changing his name to that. So there was an Andrew Jackson Griffith out there somewhere. Moving on, I could talk about Andy Griffith all day, probably will, but I'm going to be visiting Mount Airy in the near future, so I'll probably have a lot more to say about Mr. Andy Griffith in the future. This will be a good time to stop, too, and acknowledge that I forgot to mention, I did get a donation this week from Logic Milkbone, and I don't think that's a God-given birth certificate name. If I'm wrong, forgive me, but Logic Milkbone sent a very generous donation to me through the mail, and I just wanted to thank you for that, and also let you know that it did come through the mail successfully, and that was from Reno, Nevada, if I'm not mistaken. So getting out there a little bit. Also on June 1st, sticking with that, we'll go with Hazel Dickens. Was born in 1925 in Montcalm, West Virginia, which is in Mercer County. She was a singer and songwriter, and she became most known for her music, pro-union, pro-labor, and feminist music that she had. She had a song called Black Lung, and I do believe it was about her brother that experienced black lung that led to his demise, and also coal mining women, talking about the challenges women have in the coal mining world. She appeared in the documentary Harlan County, USA briefly, and she also was in the movie Mate One, interestingly enough. She passed away in 2011. Moving on to June 2nd, in 1919, a man was born by the name of Garland Merle Connor, and he was a soldier in World War II. He was wounded 3 different times. Actually, he was born in Erin, Kentucky. I need to mention that too. But he was wounded 3 different times while in service, and he won the Distinguished Service Cross, 4 Silver Stars, 3 Purple Hearts, and it took him 22 years, which is disgracefully long, to get his Distinguished Service Cross upgraded to a Medal of Honor. But finally, he received that in 2018 when Donald Trump posthumously awarded that to his wife, his widow. And but we do want to thank Mr. Garland Merle Connor for his meritorious service during World War II. Moving on to June 3rd. David Cole was born in Johnson City, Tennessee in 1962, and he was a musician, songwriter, and record producer, and he was one half of CNC Music Factory, and with a man whose name I can't pronounce to save my soul, David Cleaves. I don't know. I need to buy a pronunciation on that one. I'm not even going to try anymore, but he was part of CNC Music Factory, and if that name doesn't jump off the pages at you, maybe you'll remember this song because it's called Gonna Make You Sweat, and if that doesn't ring it your bell for you, then I'll bring it right back to you, because it's Everybody Dance Now, dun, 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 dun. I quit. If you don't know it now, you don't know the song. And I don't know where you've been living for, I don't know, you just don't listen to radio or music, I guess. So if you don't know Everybody Dance Now, everybody pause, take a breath, and go for yours. On my command, now hit the dance floor. Gonna make you sweat till you bleed. I remember way too much of this. Is that dope enough? Indeed. Forget it. I gotta quit. Anyway, he actually ended up producing some records for Mariah Carey, Aretha Franklin, and James Brown, among many others. And he sadly died in 1995 at the way too young age of 32. Speculation is that it was AIDS-related cause of death, and he actually, his life and death inspired the song One Sweet Day from Mariah Carey. She actually wrote that song in honor of him, and that is a massive hit. Another one that a lot of people will remember, but I did not know until this very day that it was written for Mr. David Cole. Moving on to June 4th, 1861. This is another interesting story to me anyway. And that was the Free State of Scott was declared. So what happened was, once the Civil War broke out, and of course Tennessee seceded from the Union and became a southern state, well, the county of Scott seceded from Tennessee to stay pro-Union. They attempted to. There was a speech, a very impassioned speech by Andrew Johnson, who got on the steps of Huntsville and gave a big speech and really led to a lot of people getting whooped up about this seceding from the state of Tennessee. And by a vote of 541 to 19, the local citizens voted to secede from Tennessee and stay in the Union. Now, of course, this was not enforceable and didn't actually have any really real weight because the state of Tennessee didn't recognize what they had done, which is kind of odd because Tennessee seceded from the Union and expected that to be honored. But anyway, they didn't do it in that case. And they stayed technically seceded until 1986 when officials decided to apply for reinstatement into the state of Tennessee, and it was all just a formality, but that was accepted, and they're back in the good graces of the volunteer state. Moving on to June 6th. A man was born by the name of Bill Bates in 1961 in Knoxville, Tennessee, and he was a fantastic athlete. He played for University of Tennessee, and then he walked on as a free agent. Not walked on. That's what you do for college. He signed as a free agent with the Dallas Cowboys, and he played with them from 1983 till 1997 and had a very distinguished career, made a Pro Bowl. He was just a fantastic special teams player. I still remember him playing. He was my brother's favorite player at some points, and he was a massively hard hitter. There's actually also a YouTube clip where he got ran over by Herschel Walker in college, but man, this guy was a stud, though. He could absolutely lay some licks on some people, and he was a 3-time Super Bowl champion. So that wraps up this week. And again, I'm a little dizzy off this cup. I'm not gonna lie. I would eat another piece if I had it right here. In fact, that's my biggest regret of the day. Not eating it is not eating enough. So if you have a chance, just take my advice. If you didn't hear anything else I said today, eat as much cobbler as you can possibly fit in your body without getting sick, because you will regret it later if you don't. And there you go. So thanks for Logic Milkbone for a donation that helped sponsor this video, and thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, whatever you do to support this channel. I'll see you again next week. Thanks.